Do you have questions on your financial strategies for your business or your family? It is tough sometimes to process all the information and the noise out there when it comes to taxes, retirement plans, college planning for your children, investing in uncertain times, and protecting you and your loved ones with the right insurance. Diamond State Financial Group specializes in working with individuals and helping them simplify their comprehensive financial picture. They go beyond the basics and help clients like myself look at their current financial position, their dreams, their goals, and the lives that they would like to live, and help them plan to achieve all that they would like to achieve in life. They also consult with business owners like myself to help them think through many of the same strategies, as well as provide comprehensive business consulting engagements to help them maximize the value of the hard work they put in to build their business. One of the primary sources of stress in our lives is questions about money. Consider a conversation with an advisor to see if it makes sense to let them help you through it. Call Greg Carroll to set up a complimentary, no obligation conversation at 302 366 0366, or you could even text questions to 302 956 9878. Securities offered through Cetera Advisor Networks, LLC, member FINRA-SIPC. Advisory services offered through Cetera Investment Advisors, LLC, a registered investment advisor. Cetera is under separate ownership from any other named entity. Hello, friends. Welcome to Level Up with Debbie Neal. I am your host. There is nowhere I would rather be than right here, right now, with you. This podcast is all about leveling up in all aspects of our lives. Thank you for being here. I am so grateful. I'm excited to be on this journey with you. Together, we are leveling up. You ready? Hello, my Level Up family. I hope you are all incredibly amazing. I have a guest on here today, and I'm pretty pumped about it. We are going to be spending some time talking to Bo Eason. And so if you're on my team, if you have been coached by me, you know that I'm really passionate about the book, There's No Plan B to Your A Game. Like, I love this book. I probably have a lot of it memorized. If you guys are in my profession, which is network marketing, or I believe any single thing that you want to be the best at, this is a no matter what read. So I'm going to share a little bit about Bo. We're going to have some fun today, just talking about his story. We're going to talk about mindset. And we're really, what it always comes back to is leveling up and being the very best that you can be in whatever it is that you are pursuing in life. So Bo Eason started his career in the NFL as a top pick for the Houston Oilers, continuing on with the San Francisco 49ers. And during his 5-year career, Bo competed beside and against some of the greatest players of his generation. In 2001, Bo wrote and starred in his one-man play, Runt of the Litter, which he performed on Broadway to rave reviews. The New York Times called it one of the most powerful plays in the last decade. Bo toured with the play in over 50 cities and is now being adapted as a major motion picture. Now in his third act, he speaks to and trains some of the most successful people in the world, and that's all of you: athletes, artists, entrepreneurs, C-suite execs, on how to communicate for maximum impact and success. He has consulted for clients like Advisors Excel, Morgan Stanley, Dimensional Fund Advisors, Mass Mutual Guardian, and Merrill Lynch. His book, There's No B for Your A Game, Be the Best in the World at What You Do, hit the Wall Street Journal, Washington Post, and USA Today bestseller lists. His training programs on leveraging the power of personal story have transformed the way experts, entrepreneurs, and leaders communicate. So, Bo, I'm so grateful and I'm so excited to have you here today as a guest. I have read your book, There's No Plan B for Your A Game, several times. And I was so happy when you reached out to be a guest. And so my belief is that being the best is a decision. It's not something we're born with. Some people are born with more talent, but a lot of times it's a decision. So I'm really excited to be spending some time here today. You guys, we're going to go back and forth and we're going to have some fun, but I would absolutely love for you to start by just telling your story. Like, I know so much of your story by heart. I know, about being 5 foot tall and 100 pounds. And I know, the things that your dad said to you in the morning. And so this is what I love so much, you guys. We don't even realize who plays an impact on our success, and your personal growth and your success and the way you level up. It is all about reading and listening and filling your mind with so much good and so much positivity that you starve the doubt. And so this book was awesome. And I'd love to turn it over to you just to share a little bit of your story, and then we'll go back and forth and have some fun.
Okay, great. Debbie, thank you so much. And I'm so honored that you read the book so many times. I do the same thing. If I love a book, I don't, like most people always, they go around, they go, I read a book a week, and at the end of the year, I've read 52 books or whatever. I'm like, you know what? I read one book for like 8 years. That's just how it goes. If I like it, I just keep reading it. So thanks for that. Yeah, my story. And I love what you said about being the best, being a decision. And once you make the decision of being the best, there's really no more decisions to be made. They say that our culture is fatigued by decision making. Like, I don't want to make any more decisions. My life is busy enough. I don't want to burn any energy making decisions. So I think you're right. If you decide to be world class, if you decide to be the best, then there's really all the decisions are made for you. You know what you're going to eat. You know what you're going to work. You know how you're not going to work. You know the people you're going to hang out with. You know the people you're not going to hang out with. So my story is, when I was 9, and I grew up in a family of 6 kids. So I have 4 older sisters and 1 older brother, and then me, the youngest. And I grew up on a ranch. My dad's a cowboy. And he woke us up really early in the morning. So if any of you woke up on a cattle ranch, you know that you got to get up early and you got to start doing the chores before school. And that was our life too. And since I was the youngest, I was always kind of catching up with my sisters and my brother. Well, my dad would wake us up in a very specific way. And he wasn't like a guy who was overeducated he was dirty all the time. He had dirt underneath his fingernails all the time. He didn't talk much, right? But when he spoke, you went, oh, we better listen. And he usually spoke with a cuss word. Like, that was like, cuss words were his punctuation. Like he ended every sentence with a cuss word. So when he woke us up, and he would do this one at a time. So he'd go into my 2 older sisters would sleep in one room, and then the middle sisters, the other 2, would sleep in another room together. And then me and my brother were roommates. And I could hear him coming down the hall every morning, 5 a.m. And I could hear him going into their room, and I could barely hear his voice. But he would say something to them to wake them up. Then the other sisters would get the same treatment. Then finally he'd get down the hallway and I'd be awake already. Like I was pretending like I was still asleep, but I was awake. And he'd come in, he'd pull the covers back on my brother's bed. He'd rub my brother's back and he'd say to him, "You're the best in there." And then he'd drop some foul language. "You're the best in there, partner. Get up. You're the best." And I could hear it. And I was awake and I pretended like I was asleep, and I'd turn my back to him. He'd come over to my side. He'd rub my back and he'd whisper in my ear that I was the best. And we would pop up, we would go out and we would do our chores before school. Well, this went on for, until I moved out of that house when I was 18 to go to college. He woke us up the same way every morning. And it got to the point where like me and my brother would be in playing little league, right? So we were only a year apart in age. So we played on the same little league team. And my brother was a great player, but I wasn't very good in little league. I would strike out a lot, and my dad would yell at me through the backstop that I was the best. Yeah, God damn it, you're the best. You're the best. And I'd be striking out, right? So I'd have to walk over to the dugout. I'd walk over to the dugout, and all my friends are like this: Bo, what is your dad even talking about? You're like the worst. And he's saying you're the best. And then as we got older, me and my brother went on our first date with girls, and it was a double date with the Tomasini sisters, who were the principal's daughters, right? So that's probably a bad idea, but we went on a double date with them. And on the day that we were going on this date, he did the same thing. We're walking out to the car with the girls. He gets me and my brother in like headlocks walking out to the car, and he's telling us we're the best in front of the girls, right? So we're embarrassed. We don't know. My brother finally has to tell my dad to go back in the house, and we got this, we're good. And it was a source of embarrassment for most of us, as we grew up, because our friends, they were a little bit embarrassed for us, and we were embarrassed, and we'd tell my dad to go away. Don't say that. It's embarrassing us. But then, after years of this, we finally kind of surrendered to what he was saying. We surrendered to what he saw in us. And we were probably 21, 22. And that's when my brother, became first round pick for the New England Patriots as a quarterback. He took them to their first Super Bowl that they had ever been to. I became a second round pick to the Houston Oilers. And we were the best. We were the best at our positions only because we finally decided, despite being embarrassed, we finally decided, hey, maybe the old guy's right. Maybe we are the best. That's what was expected of us all, growing up. We've heard it so many times that whenever we were second best, we decided, what, just like you said, Debbie, we decided, what, Dad said we're the best. He didn't say we were second best, or we probably would have been if he had said that. So that's how our life, that's how I was raised. And for the rest of my life, it's always been a big part of my family, of my life, of the dreams that I have, is to have the term the best in my dreams.
That's so powerful, and it could actually go both ways. See, it's a fact that we want to be really mindful of what we're taking in, because our subconscious mind, right? Our beliefs dictate our actions, and our actions create our results. So your father, now, we don't all have that kind of father. I'm very blessed. I did, but we know a lot of people don't. They could have people saying, "You're not good enough. You're not, handsome enough. These girls won't want to go out with you. You're never going to be successful. Money is bad." And then so those we have. And so you might be listening today, say, but maybe he became all this because his father breathed that into him and I didn't have that. But here's the great thing. We all have the ability to rewrite, to reprogram, to refuel our mind and be the difference that we want to see in our lives and to pay that forward. And I love that so much because you became your belief system. You became your belief system. And I love your story because I probably know your story as well as you do, but in high school, you were 5 feet tall, if I'm correct, okay, 100 pounds, and no offense, but that's not like exactly like, oh my gosh, he's going to crack. I know it because I have two of my boys crushed it in football, not NFL, but they crushed it in high school. They went on to be All-American in college for lacrosse. My son, who and I believe he was brought up being told every day, "You're the best, you're the best, you're the best." A year ago decided he's going to become an Ironman and just became third in his age group, fourth in the United States of America, and 25th in the world because he's a king. Like my kids inspire me every day. But back to you. But 5 feet tall, 100 pounds, and the coaches believe that you weren't made for football. So there could be people listening to that say, you're not made for sales. You're not made to be this. And I believe you told your dad that you were too small. And you just said the word, God damn it, which remind me of, they said, do they see the size of your heart? Right? Do they see the size of your heart? And I loved so much that sentence because I believe when love and positivity and strong beliefs can change the trajectory of somebody's entire life. And I went back into some of my notes for book club, and it's mentioned that your dad told you the runt of the litter story with the dog on the ranch. And so would you mind sharing that story?
Yeah. Um, what Debbie's referring to is this one incident happened. So me and my brother had this dream of playing pro football. So the first chance I get to play tackle football is my freshman year in high school. And like Debbie said, I was like 5'3", 100 pounds. I think they, I think I think my mom saved the actual game program, and I think they bumped me up to 115, right, just so it looked good in the high school program. But I think I was closer to 100, and my dad picked me up after school the day that they measured us, and the coach. I told my dad that they weighed and measured us for the game program today, Dad, and the coach said that I'm too small. And my dad, without skipping a beat, says, "Did they measure your heart? God damn it!" And I was like, I just remember thinking, like, so linear, so literal. I was like, Dad, I don't. My school doesn't even have one of those heart measuring things. And my dad then tells me a story about the ranch dog on our ranch. So when you have a cattle ranch or sheep ranch, you have to use dogs because you can't afford, at least in these days, to pay a bunch of ranch hands to herd those cattle. So you have to have a dog that can do the work of 10 men. And we had one. All the successful ranchers had these amazing dogs that could do the work of 10 men. Well, we had one, and my dad goes, I'm in tears. I'm like, Dad, I can't play football because the coach says I'm too small. He said, did they measure your heart? And then he says, I don't know anything about a heart measuring thing, Dad. And he goes, do you know our ranch dog that we have on the ranch? And I said, yeah. He said, do you know how we choose that dog? And I said, no, I don't know. It's a great dog. I don't know how we get it. He goes, well, when our ranch dog gets too old, we breed it with another rancher's dog. And when those puppies are born, we take the smallest puppy, the runt of the litter, and we tie a little piece of yarn around its neck, and we put it back with its other brothers and sisters, and we watch that puppy very carefully over the next 9 to 12 weeks. And I'm like, okay. And he goes, well, after the 9 to 12 weeks, we take the smallest puppy, the runt of the litter, the one with the little piece of yarn around its neck, and that's going to be our ranch dog. We give away the other puppies, its other brothers and sisters. We keep this puppy. And I said, well, why would you keep that puppy? It's the runt of the litter. Why would you want the smallest one? He goes, because the runt of the litter, to survive against its bigger brothers and sisters, becomes the smartest, the fastest, and the most determined of all its brothers and sisters. That's how we choose them. That's you. You're the youngest of my 6 kids. You have to work harder. You have to be more determined. You have to be smarter than your older brothers and sisters to even survive. So that run to the litter always becomes the champion. And I was like, that I based my life on that story, and that was told to me when I was 12 or 13. And I said, you know what? I'm the run to the litter for the rest of my life. Now, Debbie, the funny part about it is I grew up like I'm 6'2", I grew up like big. I got big, 6'2", 215, but I still had a runt's mindset. I still thought I was little. It's crazy. I grew up, but I thought I was little because my heart was like, desirous. It wanted to win. It wanted to survive. It wanted to achieve. So that's that great story my dad told me. But what's crazy about it's a little dumb little story to some people, right? But to me, it shaped I'm 63 now. It shaped who I am right now. I'm still that kid who thinks he's too small to play football. And whatever my occupation is, I always think I'm too not smart enough, not whatever enough. And I just battle hard because my dad told me my heart was big.
But that also keeps you working. It keeps you pushing. And we're objects. We're always in motion. We're never standing still. We're either moving forward or we're moving back. So I think it's better to have that mindset because we're always building on our success as opposed to resting on it. So you might be listening right now. The reason why I wanted Bo to share that story, maybe you feel you're not the most qualified. Maybe you feel like you have very little amount of influence. Maybe you feel like you don't have the belief from time to time. And every single one of us from time to time feel like the runt, but how big is your heart? And again, it's having love for what you're doing, love for what you're creating, love for your vision. How big is your determination? Because success is absolutely never, ever easy. Especially, I know a lot of listeners are in my industry. It's not easy, but it's worth it. And so what I'd love to pivot to now is you had a vision, Bo, at 5 years old, like 5. So I'd love to go there and talk about your vision.
Yeah, it was a little bit later than that. I was 9 when I actually had it, and it was a vision to be the best safety in the world. And safety is for those of you who don't know, is a position in football. And I just saw this position as something that I could, if I started right now at age 9, by the time I was 22, by the time they drafted me, if I focused more than anyone else could for the next 17, 20 years, I could be the best at that thing. And so that was my vision and that was my plan. I drew up a 20-year plan. I still own it. I still have it. It looks like the Declaration of Independence. It's all fallen apart. And that's kind of what it was. I was always moved, Debbie, by the Declaration of Independence. I can't, what I can't get my mind around is that I didn't write the Declaration of Independence yet. And you didn't write it, and we're probably not related to the people who wrote it, but somebody wrote that, and they said, we declare ourselves Americans, and this is how we're going to live our lives. We declared it. And you and me keep that document alive 250 years later. I always struck by that. Like, wait a second, I didn't even write that declaration, yet I live my life the way that declaration was constructed. That's how I live my life. I keep that document alive by the way I live and by the way you live. So that's how I've always constructed my dreams. I've always called them declarations. And I make a declaration, and I've made 5 in my lifetime, and they always had the term the best in all of them. So the first one was, I want to be the best safety in the world. The second one was 20 years later, when I was 29, actually, I just said, I want to be the best stage performer of my time. I want to be the best playwright of my generation. And I've always used the term the best because that's how I was woken up. And I don't think that was an accident. And if my dad, who never spoke very much, but when he spoke, he was very succinct on how he spoke. He didn't say, hey, you're a silver medalist. He didn't say that, right? He basically said, you're a gold medalist. And that's what's expected. And that's your lot in life. So that's what I've done. So when I did that at 9 years old, I made that dream. The whole way, Debbie, however many years that took, I drew up a 20-year plan, but I think I got there like at 18, 19 years. All the way, 18, 19 years until I actually was the best safety in the world, I was not. I was being the best safety, but I wasn't fast enough. I wasn't big enough yet. But this is why I love the title of your podcast, and I wanted to be involved with it. Because when I hear the word level up, do you know what I hear? All I got to do is get better today. All I got to do is move this dial 1 inch today. And if you stack 20 years on that, guess what you're guaranteed? You're going to be the best. That's been my experience. I'm not talking about silver medals. Look, silver medals are hard to win, right? But gold medals are almost impossible to win. But the people who desire gold medals always win them. Isn't that weird? The people who use the term gold medal or the best or world class, if you use those terms, you actually become those. And that has been my experience. So on my way to being the best safety in the world, every day, you guys, I had no evidence for it. I didn't get recruited to go play college football. Nobody wanted me. 350 colleges play college football. Nobody wanted me. And my dream is to be the best safety in the whole world. And nobody wants this safety who's 18 years old going to college. Nobody. So I just invited myself to a small college that didn't give scholarships, that you could basically just walk there and play. And I went there, and you guys, the whole way there, they didn't want me either. You know what I mean? I had no proof that this dream was going to work out. I had little kind of inclinations here and there, but to the world, I was nowhere near or going to be the best safety in the world. But to me and my dad and my brother and the close people next to me, like just a few, 1, 2, 3, 4 people. That's it. I didn't need a bunch of people. But then the day of the draft comes, you guys, many years later, 1984. I'm the top safety. I'm the best safety in the world. And they announce it on ESPN like it's a surprise. Well, to me, it was not a surprise. To me, I always knew it because I could see it in my head. But to the world, and you got to remember this, to the world, to the public, they're always late. That's why I don't base my greatness based on the world or the culture. My greatness is based on the few people that are right next to me and my dream. And you guys, once they announced that, oh, Bo Eason is the top safety in the country, I'm like this. I wasn't surprised. I was like this. It's about time you noticed. You know what I mean? And so it's kind of climactic because I was being, and write that word down, I was being the best safety in the world starting at the age of 9. And I didn't care what the world said. I didn't care that there was no evidence. I knew that I had to level up or develop and get 1 inch better each day of those 20 years. That's all I knew. That's all I knew to do. And every time I've done that, you guys, I pass all my competition. It's just a matter of time. Because here's what people don't do. Congratulations to you for doing this. People don't level up. People think they graduated. And so they stop developing. They stop leveling up. They've reached the promised land. And they're like, oh my gosh, I'm just going to sit back on the sofa now and enjoy my golden TV set. You and me, certainly you wouldn't be a fan of this podcast, especially with the title of Level Up, if you didn't believe this too, if you didn't have this mindset already, this growth mindset of getting better. You guys, every time I've done this, I've done it 5 times in my lifetime, I end up being the best at whatever I wanted to be the best at. And it takes the world so many years. So I know it from the first day I declare it. But the world doesn't. And then finally 20 years, 15 years, whatever years, how many years later, they go, oh, this guy's the best at what he does. And I'm like, yeah, you're late to the party. I've known that for so many years because you guys, this is what I want you to do. I want you to start being your declaration today. Now, you don't have to have the public know about it. You're being it. So, for example, if I'm going to be the best stage performer of my time, guess who I'm going to go talk to? The best stage performer of his or her time. That was Al Pacino, right? So Al Pacino in 1990 was the best stage performer. At least that's what everybody told me. So I just went and met with him. And I said, dude, I want what you got. I want it. Tell me what I got to do. Who do I have to be to have the mantle of best stage performer of my time? And guess what? Al Pacino told me. He told me what I had to do. So guess what? I did it. So congratulations to you guys for even being here, because just this term level up is you're all the way there. Most people just won't do what you're willing to do. They don't have that mindset, so they don't develop, and there's no way they can be the best because they're not willing to pay the price of what it takes to be the best.
So you hit on so many points that I want to touch on. Okay. So first, when I started in my business 19 years ago, I came to the table with no sales experience, no experience in my profession. And I was like, I want to come in and I'm going to be the best at this. I was an athlete. I had other things that I brought to the table. We have different things we bring. I had a strong mindset, but I came in and I started on May 30th, 2006. And on July 2nd, I wrote myself what I considered a declaration. I said, my name is Debbie Neal. Today I am, and I put my title in my company, and I said, I will be the best in my company. I will be the best in my industry. I am in it to win it. And I signed my John Hancock on there. So I'm very, very passionate about the Declaration of Independence as well as you. And I treated my business as a declaration. And I can remember I was 3 months in and I achieved a level in very record time. And I always tell people they can go to the earnings statement. And I remember I went into this big event. There was like 5,000 people. And I was with some people like, if my name badge turns around, please let me know. So I want everybody to know what I accomplished in 3 months. And I had a lot of ego at the time. I didn't realize that I needed much more humility. And I sat in that stand and I watched the top 20 income earners cross the stage. And I was like, huh, as excited as I am, I'm nowhere near that yet. And I felt deflated for a minute because I was like, well, if they're already there and I'm here, how am I going to get there? Having the mindset that we're all growing, but we're not all growing. We're not. So I went home and I was like, no, people eventually stop. 95% of people never do what they did again to achieve that level. So I'm like, light bulb moment. I just need to want it more than anybody else in that arena. And I'm going to lead my team to be the best. And that's worked for me. That's really, really worked for me. And it amazes me how many people get so discouraged when they come up against rejection in life, or they have this big dream or they have this big vision, and then they base their results on emotion. Or we're living in a world too of instant gratification. Everybody wants instant gratification. And when they don't see it, like maybe this is not for me, or my friends think I'm crazy. If I had $1 for everybody who thought I was nuts, or people who said this will never work, or you could never do that, or most people don't make that. Like I literally had to block people out of my mind. Like la, 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 la. I don't hear a thing because I only wanted to surround myself with the people that were the best. Who was making the most in my industry? What were they doing? And another thing you said that everybody who knows that listens to me know I'm so passionate about the 3 words, be, do, have. So you said the word, you were being the best. So I always tell people, if you want to have this life, if you want to have this title, if you want to have this income, you need to first be that. How would that person show up? How would they act? How would they talk? What would their level of gratitude be? What would their level of energy be? How would they walk into them? Be that person today, before the pay comes, before the title comes, before the accolade comes. Then do the work. Do whatever that person would do. And then, and only then, will you have that life, that accolade. But it does start with just being that. We could sit here and I could talk to you for hours about this, because you could see why I loved your book so much, because it speaks my language. So, I have certain books that I just read. I read new books all the time, but then I've got like 5 to 7 where I'm like, if I need to be reminded of what it takes to be the best, I didn't come here for average, all of those things. It's definitely your book is one of the top because I refuse to be average. I refuse to follow the pack. I don't want to listen to the norm. Um, so anyway, those are just the things that I was thinking about that. And what I'd love to talk about for a little bit, because so many people, one of the things you talked about in your book was like unnatural talent. And whether it's football or whether it's a play, I always say I've spoken on stage in front of tens of thousands of people. And I always joke and say, I wish I could sing because I've got now the arena and maybe, and I always say that I can. Maybe I could be the best, I don't know. But I sing in the shower, I sing in my car. But maybe now I'll take that to singing because I do get the privilege of being on stage often. But people think they need to be a natural leader or natural at sales or natural, and I don't believe that. So I'd love to just touch on this. Like I don't believe that.
Yeah, it's that. I mean, that I think that is the big excuse. The news media and social media does this too. I think they just really have brainwashed us into thinking, oh, they're a natural, you're not. They're a natural, you're not. I think that is the laziest thinking ever. I feels like an excuse to be mediocre. Oh, like let's take Tom Brady's life for example, right? So he's the greatest player ever to play. He is the worst athlete also to ever play. You know what I mean? Like it's funny. He's not a natural. It doesn't come to him easy. He was rejected so much. He was drafted in the 6th round. No one gets drafted in the 6th round and succeeds. You know. Here's what he does do, and this takes the place of this natural conversation. And it goes back to the being conversation. He outbehaves every other quarterback that's ever been born. He outbehaved them all. He's not the greatest thrower. He's not the greatest athlete. He's slow. Nobody wanted him coming out of high school. Nobody. His high school didn't want him. His college didn't want him. He got drafted in the 6th round by New England. They didn't want him. That's how it goes, you guys. Why does everybody who we admire is always somebody who's not a natural? Why is that? Why do we love this movie called Rocky? Because they certainly have made that movie enough times, right? They've made that movie, I don't know how many times, 8, 7, whatever it is. But we love those movies because Rocky was a shitty fighter. He wasn't a natural fighter like Apollo Creed was, like Mr. T was, like the big Russian dude was, right? That's called great storytelling. That's who we admire, those kinds of stories, like the Tom Brady story, like the Rocky story, like your story. You said something, Debbie, when you were watching those people go across the stage who had, were the highest earners, the 20 highest earners. And you said, you didn't say this. Here's what you didn't say. I'm not one of them. They must be naturals. They're great. Here's what you said. You just said it. You go, oh, I'm not there. You said the word yet, meaning you're going to be there. And when Al Pacino talked to me, he goes, Bo, there's people who have 15 years of a head start on you. How are you going to be the best stage performer? I said, I'm going to catch up to them. I'm not there yet, but I will be there. Give me some time. Give me some training. And right when Al Pacino understood that yet part, he goes, oh, that's different. I get it. I'll help you. And sure enough, he did. So this term that Debbie used, everybody, listen, that she's 100% right. Oh, I'm not a top earner yet. She didn't say this. I'm not a top earner. I'm not a natural. Not ever going to. Listen, If some human being did it, achieved this thing, whether it's $20 million or a gold medal somewhere or putting a rocket on Mars, a human being's going to do that, right? They've done that and they're going to do it. That means you and me have the same, ability. All we got to do is find out what the hell they did and how did they behave. Like, how did Tom Brady behaved like a Super Bowl champion way before you win any Super Bowls? That's a behavior. Those people walking across the stage that Debbie was watching, those highest earners in the company, they behaved a certain way that equaled a certain money amount. You and me can begin that today. We don't have to wait until we're great. We don't have to wait to have our bank account be a certain amount. We don't have to wait for that coach to show up. You can start behaving this way today, right now. That has been my experience of how I've done it. I was never great. I wasn't a natural actor. I got trained on the stage. I put my ass on a stage more than any other human being could put their ass on a stage. That's pretty simple to me. That's pretty simple, right? That's how that happens. I'll give a pause right there, Debbie, if you have a question.
You know what it just makes me think, like, being the best, whatever it is, we it's up to us to take that responsibility. I want you all to know, if you don't know already, your future is in your hands. But the reality is, it does take hours. It does take years. But most people don't want to invest the time. I always say there's two reasons why you don't create what you want to create. Number one, you didn't put in the effort, or number two, you tried to bargain with the price. Okay. And so average aren't willing to pay the price of being the best. And then we watch other people, especially with social media today, and there's so many distractions. What are they doing? What don't I have? If you got paid to scroll, you'd all be millionaires, right? But the truth of the matter is, they're out there busting their asses. It's called grit. And I say it all the time. When did hard work become unsexy? Like, when we're living in this culture of, like, we want to, like, chill. We want to, be calm. We want peace. We just want to be still. Well, enjoy not living at your best. Enjoy not being the best, because you don't do it in your comfort zone. You don't do it with ease, and you certainly don't do it chilling out. You do it by having massive discipline, which we could shift to there. That's something that we're not born with discipline. We don't have discipline. Maybe we have a certain level because we've watched other people that are really good examples. Like, I was just talking to all my kids have incredible discipline, but I just came back. I literally just flew back from Florida. I was exhausted from getting 26,000 steps just chasing him around. And I watched the discipline that it took, getting up at 4 a.m. and practicing before his corporate job. Like, that's what makes you the best. And anybody can do it, but most won't.
Most won't do it. They won't do it. It's so true. And it just, like, even in your marriage, just the discipline that a lifelong commitment is. If you think of your declaration like a marriage, like a lifelong commitment, like, there's documents involved. In most people's weddings, there's church involved. So, God's involved. You're making promises. Everyone in that church is there to support that promise. And that's how I see discipline, like a loyalty to something. And I don't think people are loyal to their own dreams. They're not loyal to their own declarations. They treat them haphazardly. Like, a lot of people, I go, well, what's your dream? And they'll go, well, I don't really have one yet. I'm waiting until I have more money, and then I'm going to have a dream. And I'm like, well, that's just totally backwards thinking, right? You have to have the vision, you have to have the dream, and then the discipline to run the miles, which is what your son's doing, basically running miles, biking miles, swimming miles after mile after mile. You have to show up with a loyalty to that vision. And it's not, I never thought of it. I always never thought that my dreams were jobs. Like playing in the NFL, that's an occupation, right? That's a job. You get paid for that. I never thought of it that way. In fact, I was always a shitty negotiator because I didn't really care. That wasn't the reason I was there. I got paid a lot of money to do it, right? Because there's only a few people who can do it. But I would have played for nothing. I would have, I just, oh, you're going to pay me? That's great. It never occurred to me. Same thing with when I say I want to be the best playwright. I didn't realize that they paid you for that. It wasn't my thrust. And then I go, oh, you're going to pay me to be the best? Oh, and you're going to pay me more to be the best. Oh, that's cool. Okay, good. And that's how I've kind of looked at that part of my life. But I'm very, I guess, instead of discipline, because I know that's a bad word for most people, I have a certain loyalty to my dreams, like a marriage. Like how long is a marriage going to last if you're cheating on your spouse? Probably not very long. How long is that marriage going to last if you're not true to the marriage? If you're not loyal to the marriage, even if that marriage lasts on paper, it's probably not a good marriage, right? So your declaration, you have to have a certain love and loyalty to it. And here's the bottom line on that. If you do that, if you decide to have that loyalty and be married to that vision, to that dream, I can promise you, you are going to be one of the most attractive people on our planet. There's nothing more attractive. And I know we think attraction is like, oh, you're classically pretty. Oh, you're handsome. That we're not attracted to that. There's plenty of beautiful women and men out there that we are not attracted to. They're beautiful. We're not attracted to them. Why is that? And then how could it be that people are classically not pretty or not handsome that we're completely attracted to? How could this be? It can be because the people who are classically unattractive, but we're attracted to them, have a vision and they're loyal to it. And there's nothing more attractive, you guys, than commitment, than loyalty to something. I am telling you, there is nothing more attractive. Hey, if you're single and you want to be attractive to the opposite sex or same sex, whatever, if you want to be attractive, guess what? Get a damn vision and get loyal to the damn vision and watch what happens to your dating schedule. That's just how it goes. That's how it goes. Think back of what you're attracted to. If you're in a great marriage, think about your husband. Think about your wife. What were you attracted to? What did she do? What did she be that made you go, damn, I'm marrying that. I'm spending the rest of my life with that human being right there. What was it? It wasn't that she was clever. It wasn't that he was funny. He did something. She did something. They behaved in a certain way. And it had a loyalty to it. And you said to yourself, you know what? I like my life in her presence. I want to be loyal to that so my life turns out. That's where your whole life is. So if you'll just think of your declaration like that, it really is helpful. And knock off all your false loyalties, all these fake loyalties that we have, like to the media or a social media or some kind of fake loyalty that you have to some party or some organization. Those aren't loyalties. You want your loyalties to be in the place of your vision, because that's what makes you attractive. This is what makes you unattractive to false loyalties. Think of people who are, complaining about how the world is. Is that attractive? Are you going to marry somebody who constantly is complaining about the world and their place in it? No, it's not attractive. So be the opposite of that. Take control of your life with a vision, with a mission, with a declaration. Stay loyal to that. If you're in the dating world, that's what I would be doing. That's what That's why I was attracted to my wife. That's why she was attracted to me. That was 25 years ago. It wasn't that we looked pretty, but she is kind of pretty, very pretty, as a matter
Yeah,
of
you better
fact.
add that.
But it was what she was committed to, which was attractive.
And why I'm so passionate about vision and having a powerful vision is you do have the ability to not only change your life, but change the other people's lives, right? Being that person that does it, being evidence, going first. We rise by lifting others. And when we break through our mental game, when we break through to become the best, you know what other people are saying? Right, we know the story of the 4 minute mile. We know all these stories. I can do it. I can do it. So when Bo came out of his high school, there was never a pro football player before Bo Eason in his high school. And so, but what's the story of the four guys? Because I believe the four guys, I'm not taking credit from them, but somebody has to go first. And when you have a dream and when you have a vision and when you have a declaration, other people now have the opportunity to have a different vision for their life and what's possible.
Yeah, and this is why if you guys notice everything how I talk, if you notice how Debbie talks, how we communicate is through story, if you notice. Like it's not like we're not a lecturer going, you got to do A and you got to do B and then you got to do, we're not saying it's all story, right? So Debbie's right. My high school had 300 kids in it. Never before I got there has there been a pro athlete from my high school. Never since I left in 1979 has there been a pro athlete from that high school. So the high school's been in existence for over 100 years. Never a pro athlete before I got there, never since I left. But on my little 27 boy roster on my football team at Little Delta High School in California, in 100 years, no one's ever been a pro athlete except 1 year. There was a team of 27 boys. The odds of any boy playing high school football to play in the NFL, to get drafted and play in the NFL, the statistics are the chances of that happening are 0.03% of all high school players to play in the NFL. Well, I had 27 boys, farm boys, on my football team in high school from a school that's never had a player. Based on those statistics, 0.03% of us are going to play pro football. Guess how many guys out of 27 played in the NFL? Four. Four. Just blew that statistic all to shit, didn't it? Just blew it all. It's a statistical impossibility that could happen. One team. Why? Everyone asks why. How could this be? And not only was it they played pro football, it was a total of 25 years of pro football. 2 Super Bowls, you guys, 2 Super Bowls. At that point, only 20 Super Bowls had been played, and we had two guys in them. The statistics on that, they don't even have statistics for them because there isn't any. So my question is always why? My question is, how could that happen? How could a statistical impossibility like that happen? And I'll tell you why it happened. It happened because one of those four boys, the smallest of those boys, the least talented of those boys, had a dream, had a document that he was walking around with, a declaration that said he was going to be the best safety in the world. That was me. And if one person has that vision, guess what happens to the people closest to you, the people around you who surround you? They decide that if this little shit Bo can play NFL football, I certainly can too. And they go with you. If I look back on that team, you guys, 4 guys out of 27 played in the NFL. There were probably 4 or 5 guys that were better than us 4, but they just decided not to go. They just decided it was hard at some point, or they liked going to parties too much, or they liked chasing the girls this much, or it was just a decision. Like Debbie led this podcast with, is just a decision to be the best or not, to quit on the vision. So in theory, we could have had 9 if they kept going, but they just stopped at some point. And 4 guys didn't stop. So they just made the decision, right, Debbie, to not stop. So in the middle of me trying to be the best stage performer of my time, there were plenty of opportunities for me to quit. Plenty. And a lot of feedback to quit. Like everybody's like, Bo, come on. You're a little old. You're kind of late to the party. I mean, they got Brad Pitt right there. They got Tom Cruise right there, right? And so I'm like, yeah, I am behind. But I'll keep going. Lo and behold, you guys, lo and behold, I write a one-man play. I'm performing this one-man play. I look out into the audience, and guess who's in the audience? Tom Cruise, Brad Pitt, right? The very guys that are ahead of me are now in my audience. What? Guess why they're in my audience? They're in my audience because they want to play my role in the movie. So the play got bought as a movie, and all the movie stars came out to vie for the position that I was playing. It's crazy how that works, right? Like, it's crazy how that story works. Everybody was using those 2 guys as examples for me to quit. And I said, no, I'll stay the course. Then those 2 guys who I've never met before are in my audience, coming backstage to meet me, to get a leg up on who's going to play this role in the movie. Isn't that crazy how it works? That's exactly how it works, you guys. That's how it works. That's been my experience. When I was a high school kid, I had a guy who I cut his picture out of Sports Illustrated and put it in my locker. The guy was the best safety in 1979 in the NFL. His name was Mike Reinfeldt. It was in my locker. So every day I'm looking at this Mike Reinfeldt guy who I don't know, but I saw his picture. He's the best safety. He's the most valuable defensive player in the league. I'm like, that's cool. So then I get drafted to Mike Reinfeldt's team 4, 5 years later, 6 years later. I get drafted to his team. He's still the free safety on that team. And guess why they drafted me, you guys? Guess why they drafted me? To take his place. How crazy is that? They drafted me to take his place. Every day I open my locker, there's Mike Reinfeldt. Now my locker in the NFL is right next to Mike Reinfeldt. We become friends. We became buddies. He set me up with his wife's girlfriend. I was many years younger than him, but he taught me how to play the position. And then guess what happened to him? They cut him. They cut him, or he retired, and then I took his place. This is how this works, you guys. You got to be very specific on what you desire. I desired being the best safety. I desired being the best playwright or stage performer. And guess who shows up? The best show up because of how I was behaving. Because I wasn't the best yet, but I was behaving like the best behave. And then they become your peers. The best become your peers. It's kind of cool. That's my life. That's the life I'd love for you. And I know that there's a reason why Debbie and I have connected over this podcast and the book. And because the title sums it up, level up. We're in the business of getting better. So who can beat you in the end? Nobody, because you're getting better and they're not.
I could sit here now, and we could turn this into a Joe Rogan podcast and we could be on here for 3 hours. I can do that because I love stories so much. And you just said some things that I, of course, can just touch on and relate to. I believe whenever people, first of all, whether you think you can or whether you think you can't, you're right, right? So we can't argue with our belief system. But whenever people say I'm stuck or I have a mental block or maybe I'm waiting for the next ace or I'm waiting for the next circumstance, it's not going to come into your life and it's not going to come into your business until you open up your mind, you open up your heart, and you start to show up in the world that way. And that's when the right people, the right circumstances, the right connections, like one of my prayers every single day is like, I thank God to connect me with the people that I'm meant to connect with, that I'm meant to serve in one way or another, and that we could, grow each other in one form or another. Like I always, whether it's in my business or I even believe this connection, like you just said, like I'm just always meant to connect with the people that I'm meant to connect with. But I expect that every single day. I feel gratitude for it. It's a deep knowing. There's no worry. There's ultimate faith backed with a lot of work that the right people in the right circumstances. I absolutely love every single thing about that story, which shows you the power of vision. Like when you look at something over and over and over again, and this is the best safety, and that's going to be me. Every single time you opened up your locker, every single time you put on your cleats, every single time you hung up your jersey, you were reminding yourself you're here to be the best. And most people show up in life to be average. They're looking for participation trophies, which I don't do. I don't love. I build the business I have because it's merit based. I live in the United States of America because you could be anything you want if you're willing to put in the effort. Like I'm a die-hard capitalist that way. And I believe the mindset and the energy is everything. So before we close out, is there, number one, I'd love to know where people can find you. And if there's last thoughts that you would like to share with our Level Up listeners today.
Yeah, there's something I'd love to give your audience just to get them started. And it's completely free. I just want you to text a number and you're going to be sent a video training, because the first thing, and this is, I mentioned this earlier, but Debbie and I speak in story, right? Everything is a story. I want you to know your story. I want you to capture your personal story, because that's always the beginning. The personal story is the beginning of the declaration, because for you to reach your declaration, you're going to have people to help you. Well, the one thing people are attracted to about you is where you came from. Like, how did you get here? Like the stories that I've been telling for the last hour, like the Runt to the litter story, like the how my dad woke me up story. Those are all stories that make people follow me and help me reach my dreams. Same for you. So take this number down, you guys. Take this number down. I want you to text a word to this number. Here's the number: 323 310 5504. Take that number down. Text that number. This personal story. Personal story. That's one word. Personal story to 323 310 5504. And I'm going to send you, you're automatically going to be sent some training where we're going to capture your personal story and we're going to begin this journey together, of how to reach and fulfill on your birthright, this dream, this vision that you have. And I know you wouldn't be on this podcast if you didn't want that. So we're the crazy few, right? We're the happy few that actually want to pursue our potential. Like, what are we made of? I want to measure myself against what the doubters say. I want to measure myself up against a Tom Cruise or a Brad Pitt or an Al Pacino or a Mike Reinfeldt. I want to see where I stand up. And does it really matter where I stand up? No, it's the pursuit. It's my behavior during that pursuit. So text personal story, one word, personal story, to the number that I gave you. I'll send you that. You get started. You get started on this dream. Don't wait another minute. And as far as the closing thoughts, here's what I love. Debbie, what you just said, it's funny, Debbie, like you are speaking right before I speak, and then you say things that I wish I said. you know, and those are the people that I'm always around. I'm always around people like authors. I'm around authors that I love their books so much that I go, damn it, I wish I said that. I wish I wrote that. And you wrote it. So I want to be around you because I wish I wrote it. Or somebody says something and I go, damn it, why didn't I think of that? I want to be around you because you said something I wish I said. And you kept saying things that I wish I said. And and here's the key to life is you've got to be strategically ignorant to what's going on in the world. You have to be real. Like, I love thoroughbred racehorses. You know why I love them? You're one of them, by the way. You know, like Debbie, you're one, I'm one, and everybody watching and listening to us. You guys are thoroughbred racehorses. We're not too far from them. Most people go, well, no, we've evolved further than that, Bo. And I'm going, I'm not sure we have. Because thoroughbred racehorses do one thing. They run. And guess what? They run fast. Do thoroughbred racehorses scroll through social media? Do thoroughbred racehorses wonder what they're going to have for lunch? No. Do they wonder what they're going to do today with their trainer? No, they don't wonder. They know what they're going to do. What are they going to do? They're going to run, and they're going to run fast. So I think of us like thoroughbred racehorses. We have to be strategically ignorant to what is happening out here. That's why they put these blinders on these thoroughbreds like this, so they can look down the track and know where they're going. There's no distraction over here. There's no distraction over there. Well, you have to think of yourself as a thoroughbred racehorse from this day forward. And the only thing in front of you is that track. And your track is a loyalty, a love to your vision. And whoever has the clearest vision and whoever has usually the biggest vision is the winner. Especially if you can build your life strategically to be ignorant of all the distractions. It's really difficult to do that, you guys, but it can be done. People do it all the time. I would love for you to start to behave in that way because I guarantee you, everybody that you admire and look up to, that's how they behave. And everybody that you just feel sorry for and you wish they could get out of the rut that they're in, they do not behave that way. They chase every shiny object they're bid. They are not thoroughbred racehorses. I call them donkeys. There are donkeys and there are thoroughbred racehorses. You choose.
I love that. And just to touch that, when you surround yourself with donkeys, okay, donkeys, like I love the word jackass. I feel like jackass, right? I feel like it's the most now, if you guys know me, I use the term jackass all the time. Like jackass is one of my favorite words. It's underplayed, except when it comes to me. When you're going for it, that's when you're not going to get support from people. You're going to get, because if you're surrounding yourself with average, you're going to get a lot of, don't worry, you did your best. Don't push yourself. It's making yourself out of balance. You are going to constantly get permission to play small and not level up. So let me ask you a question. Let's close with this thought. What do you want to be the best at? Where do you want to take your business? Where do you want to take your income? And we talk about this all the time, but get really specific. Because I know when it came to me, it wasn't like, oh, I want to be successful. What does that mean? It wasn't just a title. What does that mean? For me, it was numbers, what I wanted to earn, because I knew that directly was connected to how many other people I helped think outside the box and level up. So once you declare it, because now we're on the topic of declaring it, you know what it does? It kind of just makes everything else in life wash away because that's your focus. That's what you're honing in on, right? And everything else, all the distractions kind of melt away. Now, once you make this declaration, you're going to see distractions. You're going to have vacations. You're going to have family emergencies. You're going to have crazy elections. But the reality is you have to get up. You've got to stand in your decision. You've got to stand in your commitment. Really think about the term the best. It's not average. Because I say it all the time, the road to average is really, really crowded. There's so much traffic in there. So make whatever adjustments you need to make to your life right now and look in that mirror and decide what it is that you are going to create and commit to it. Because being the best, really think about that. I remember, you guys know my story. I had a sign on my desk with a certain amount of money that I wanted to earn. And I remember every single time I got tired, every single time I didn't feel like doing it, every single time I got a nasty rejection, two things would come to my mind. One, that quiet little voice that was saying, Deb, how bad do you really want it? And two was, what are you willing to do for that? What are you willing to do for that? Because we can learn the skills, but it's always going to come down to what are you willing to do? So make that declaration and know that you have exactly what it takes to live it out, own your life, and to level up. So thank you, Bo, for being here. This has been a real treat. I've loved spending time with you. I'd love to do this again because I feel like there's a million other things that we could talk about, but I really valued our time together. I'm really grateful, and I feel very excited for our listeners. Find him on Instagram, text him, get connected with him, because the more people you're around that push you out of your comfort zone, the greater your odds of leveling up your life. Love you, friends.